So Hell Week is 130 hours of continuous training. You might get 2 hours of sleep. And what it does is, it's designed to break a man. To break a man down to the parts where, like I talked about the surface, how I was fixing the surface. If you only fix the surface, you will never get through Hell Week. Because what it does, it starts to bring out these demons. Because even though there's a lot of yelling and stuff like that, there's times where it's very peaceful in a very eerie way. So the first hour of the 130 is breakout. They're shooting guns, it's loud, it's noisy, your mind is in chaos. When your mind's in chaos, you can't think. So you're having fun. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, we're in Hell Week, we're Navy SEALs, or we're trying to be Navy SEALs, we're badasses. Then what they do, and I don't even think that they understand what they're doing, but I studied the mind. It's perfect. It's psychological warfare. They go from an hour, the first hour when you're going crazy. The second hour of the 130, they put you in the cold water. It's called surf torture. Now they don't call it surf torture because it's a kinder, gentler word. It's called surf acclimation or something like that. Whatever. Everybody's getting soft. So they call it surf torture for a good reason. They put you out there. No one's quit yet. It's only been an hour. Maybe a couple of guys have. And you're in the Pacific Ocean, which is never warm. You're all linked arms. You're sitting there and the waves are crashing over you. I went through winter Hell Weeks, which is cold. The Pacific Ocean is like 50 degrees. It was 49 this particular night in my third Hell Week. And what it does is it makes your mind flip out. We've been doing this now for 3 weeks, being in this water. But for some reason now, the water is colder than it's ever been. It's not. Our minds are fragile. We can process a day. It's hard to process 130 hours. There's no end. There's no end. So the mind starts to ramp up. So you're sitting there, it's quiet, no one's yelling at you, hear the ocean, shh, shh, and you're freezing. And your mind goes spastic, starts to think, I'm another 109 hours. You're not going home, you're getting yelled at, you can be frozen. So you panic, you freak out, and you want to quit. What I realized about the mind is those people who can be in that time and embrace that time and be in that moment and not allow the mind to go to 129 hours on hour one. It's the control that we don't have in our minds. It's the control that you had to have for 3 months when you're miserable, when you're suffering, when you're laying on the floor, when you're doing all the disciplines it takes to be a monk. You cannot think about the whole process. It will make you it will make you so insanely crazy. It's impossible. It's inhumane what I'm about to do to myself. You have to be able to break all these big, humongous, painful things in life down to the smallest molecule. Because that's all the brain can handle. The brain can't handle hours and hours and hours of suffering. But it can handle right now, I'm in the Pacific Ocean. And it's very cold. And this is what I'm doing. Don't think about the rest of it. So that's what I learned from Hell Week. That's what I learned from being in 3 Hell Weeks. That's what I learned from all the military. I went to Ranger School. I went to all these different schools to learn all of that. To learn how the mind processes. So I talk about theorists. I talk about practitioners. A theorist is a person who reads a book, doesn't do it, reads a book, learns about something, and then talks about it. A practitioner is myself. A practitioner is a person like me. I wanted to be an expert in the mind. A mental toughness guy, beyond mental toughness. The only way to do that, in my eyes, is to put yourself in hell. Put in hell, repeatedly. Repeatedly put yourself in hell and study how you process it. And that's how I was able to come up with all these different ways, all these different tools to slow the mind down in hell. Because the mind just speeds up. The mind wants to get out of the painful situation, the suffering. It can't process it. So that's what I realized by going through all these different processes of being in Hell Weeks. You know, it's just that, how the mind processes in hell.
Were you ever scared that you would lose the processing ability to be able to coach yourself through it? Were you ever scared of that?
I was. There's some times when the mind gets overwhelmed and you cannot slow it down. But by these certain tools I developed, by not allowing your mind to get away from the moment. You have to think about the exact moment that you're in. But I saw when I was younger, the moment became too big. When it became too big, I spazzed out and I quit. But now, I don't think about even like an hour from now, I'll be eating. I don't even go there. Because then your mind, no, we must embrace this. Because now, you have to be a leader in this moment. It's not about you just getting through it. I had 5 guys, and 6 including me, in my boat crew. Now I was the boat crew leader. So now, another trick is this. If you don't think about yourself, there's no pain. Which can also lead to pain later on in your life. But in these moments when you're struggling, if you are a true leader and you're worried about your men or women beside you, your mind doesn't care how cold you are. Your mind's only worried about taking care of the men and women beside you. So I started realizing, man, if I take care of these cats to my left and my right in the worst moments, my mind is no longer thinking about, you're miserable, David Goggins. Get the hell out of here. You're thinking about, how was John? How was Andy? How was Sam? How was Pete? Hey, how you guys doing? You're not thinking about me. So there's so many things you can do to get outside your own head to then allow your body to just be like, hey, we're just a machine. But you have to let your mind be able to process all these different tactics to do that. Take a different vantage point in life. When you are in the hell, you can't see the beauty of being in it when you're in it. Get on top of that mountaintop in your mind. Get on top of that mountaintop and look down on what you're doing. You can see a whole different world, and that world is beautiful. But you gotta get a different vantage point in the suck. Don't be in it. Spiritually, get out of it. Get that soul. Look down on what you're doing. Be amazed by the process of where you're at now and where you came from.
Wow. I've got so many questions from that. I've got so many questions from that. Okay, let's start with you said, and I love that. So you said one of the tricks is when you stop thinking about yourself. When there's no self, there's no pain. And you start living for your team, the people, the other people suffering. I love that. Totally understand that. Servant leadership, wanting to go beyond oneself. But you pointed out something really fascinating. You said it can lead to pain later.
That's right.
Explain that, because I get that.
So I've had this mentality for years. It got me through a lot of hard times. You cannot use it every day of your life.
That's what I was thinking.
You cannot use it. I use it as like, my God, this is the perfect, I found it. This is the trick. You don't even matter. You're just a machine. You are a machine. Just like a lever. That's all you are, man. You're not. You're not. And in my book, I talk about what that lever starts to get rusty, starts to get crusty. It starts to, like, I can't even think of anybody but myself. So through the process, what I started to learn was that helps a lot. And you can tap into that all the time. But you have to be able to heal yourself. You have to be able to recover yourself. It can't be something that you continue to do and do and do. There has to be a recovery process for your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. It encompasses your whole body. So those are tactics, but those tactics must be oiled up. That lever has to be oiled again to go back in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not an emergency use, but it's used in specific moments, knowing you can go back. And it's so true that so many people who want to serve, it becomes the default. And I made that mistake myself. When I became a monk, it was because I wanted to wake up every day to serve. That was my goal. I was like, I'm going to wake up every day, I'm going to use everything I've been given to serve humanity. I just want to serve people. I just want to give. And I was just being that. And so I would go through sleepless nights. I would push myself for weeks on end to go further for other people. And it was amazing because it felt fulfilling and it helped them too. But after a while, I was broken. I lost my voice for 6 months. I was eating out of tubes for 6 months. I was writing on a whiteboard. You know, it was just my whole life kind of crumbled. I was sleeping 14 hours a day then because my life kind of went to the other side. You know, because I'd worked so hard to just give, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. But in the process, I broke myself because I wasn't refueling. I wasn't renewing. Even though I was still taking, I was still meditating.
As a lot of you know, I just got back from a 50-mile race. The race didn't go as planned. I trained for it. I did everything possible to make the race go right. But hey, once again, Time keeps on ticking, the world keeps on moving, nobody really cares. So I can't focus on it too long. I've been focused on what's next, what's in front of me. So I got home, started looking at the very next race to get into, do a little recovery time, get back in the fight, start preparing my mind. A lot of people ask me, how the hell do you gain mental toughness? Well, how you gain mental toughness? The only way to do it is to do things that don't make you feel good, and do things that you might fail at. When you fail at something, you don't do your best. That's how you gain mental toughness, by getting back in the fight, not stopping. Stay hard.
And this is the eureka moment. This is it. Out of my whole life, this is the one time, this is when I realized that we are way cutting ourselves short. The worst shape of my life, never felt this kind of pain before in my life. Ever. Never again. In my 81, when I knew I wasn't going to make time, I ran. I ran 20 miles. I did 101 miles. I was averaging like 10:30s. Being able to barely walk, now I'm running 10 to 10:30s for the next 20 miles. When I got done with that, I sat back down in that chair that was now my porta potty, and it was my ex-wife. She actually backed the car up on this grassy knoll where I was kind of, camped up at for 19 hours and 6 minutes. I ran 101 miles. Walked 101 miles. I got home. I detail it well in the book. I won't go through it well. It was a horrible situation. I was in the worst shape of my life. I got in the tub. I had this poncho liner on because in San Diego in November it's chilly. So I'm freezing. She puts the water on me, and I'm peeing what looks like dirt. It's just dark. It was like dirt coming out of me. And we have a discussion, and she calls my mom up. My mom has a doctor friend. The doctor friend says, you got to get him to the hospital. His kidneys are shutting down. This is going on. And this is where the story gets kind of crazy. It was the best and worst feeling I had in my life. I had put myself in a situation where I opened my mind to the fullest capacity to pull this off. And all the pain, it was live. The pain sensors were going to my body. I'm in this tub in the fetal position. The water's coming down on me. And I'm just sitting there, just jackhammering. Hot water hit me. I'm jackhammering, peeing Coca-Cola out of me. I'm like, God, dog. And she goes, we got to get you to the hospital. It was the best feeling of my entire life. And everyone goes, how do you say that? And I literally pushed myself to a place that very few human beings would ever be willing to go. And I got to examine myself. I call it the live autopsy. I got a chance in 19 hours and 6 minutes to put myself in the worst possible condition I could possibly be in and figure out how to get through it and get through it. And all this pain going through was confirmation that I had just done something that I thought was humanly impossible. And I didn't want it to go away.
You're reveling in that moment thinking, man, look what I just did.
Look what the human mind can do. And from that 19 hours and 6 minutes, I lived an entire lifetime. Entire lifetime. People live 100 years and never experience the highs, the lows, the journey I did, all of it. In 19 hours and 6 minutes, I lived 100 years. And I try hard to put it in the book, but no one will ever be able to really understand what that was.
I struggle with the daily grind, trading days for dollars. But you helped me make it happen.
Yeah, and my comment was like, okay, well, thank you, I guess. Because I hope at the same time that you're grinding, that you're trading I hope that you're not trading days for dollars long term, because long term that's a losing proposition, right? If you're grinding and it's not doing something you want to do, if it's a grind that you can't embrace, then you got to find a way out of that, right? You can't trade. You don't want to trade days for dollars, because dollars don't mean anything. Days is all you got. So you got to find a way out. Now, this does not mean you need to be rash about it. This doesn't mean tomorrow you walk in, I'm not doing this job anymore, I'm out, and now you're broke. Yeah. No. Don't be rash and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but do come up with a long-term plan about what you want to do, how you want to do it, where you want to do it, and this might take 1 year or 2 years or 5 years. It might take 5 years to get to where you want to be. That's okay. That's fine. It's actually kind of cool. When you're grinding right now because you know there's something that you're working towards in the long run, that's actually awesome. So, but you gotta have an exit strategy. You gotta have an exit strategy. You gotta plan and figure out how much money it's gonna take and what are you gonna do. You're gonna work 2 jobs. I'm gonna save all my money right now. I'm gonna invest here. I'm gonna pay off my mortgage. Whatever it is you're gonna do, so that you can get yourself in a position where you actually enjoy doing what you're doing. That's what you want. And the one other cool thing about this, like I said, it's cool to grind, man. That's what we're here to do. You're here doing stuff, right? If you're not doing anything, well, then what are you doing?
You're not doing anything.
So the other thing that's cool, though, about grinding and working is that when you get that freedom, right, that you worked hard for, it's going to be so much more worth it. The discipline that you put into place to get to that freedom that you want, it makes that freedom so much more worth it. So, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're grinding. I'm glad you're grinding hard. But don't just make that trade. It's not a square trade, days for dollars. It's not a square trade. Get it back under your control. And I've actually had some really cool feedback on the podcast of people that have hit me up and said, hey, you told me to plan an exit strategy. I wish I could find this. A guy said, you told me to plan an exit strategy. He's like, that was, 9 months ago. I saved my money. I just did this. Now I'm in another business. I'm kicking ass. Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
So it can be done. Yeah. It's one of the things cool about being a human being. You got free will. You can make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So go make it happen.